This was New Year's Eve, 2023. My girlfriend Emily and I had booked this tiny off-grid cabin in the Adirondacks. There were no neighbors and no cell service for miles. Just a single long dirt road in and out of the property. We wanted a quiet night to ourselves. No parties, no crowds, just us, a wood stove, and a bottle of cheap champagne. We spent the day chopping extra firewood, playing cards by the lantern, and making chili on the propane stove. Everything felt perfect. Snow had started to fall around dusk. Big lazy snowflakes that muffled the world outside until it felt like we were the only two people left on Earth. At around 11:45, we killed the lights except for the orange glow from the stove, poured the champagne into plastic cups, and fired up my laptop. I had downloaded the official Times Square stream from last year the week before, because we'd known that there'd be no Wi-Fi. We propped it up on the coffee table and tried to sync it with our watches. We sat on the couch, wrapped in the same blanket, and waited. At around 11:58, the crowd noise filled the cabin. Millions of voices, horns, laughter. We smiled at each other and got a little excited. Once 11:59 and 30 seconds hit, the crowd starts to really buzz and they come together in unison for that famous countdown. 10. We shouted it together, clinking our glasses. 9, 8, 7. That's when I first noticed it. The audio felt thicker, like somebody had turned up the bass up on the crowd, but only slightly. 6, 5. Emily squeezed my hand. 4. And then, clear as a bell, 3 calm male voices, deep and boisterous, but not excited, perfectly in sync, joined the countdown from somewhere inside the room. 3, 2, 1. These voices weren't coming from the laptop speakers. They were behind the audio, layered underneath the millions in New York, like they were speaking directly into our ears. Happy New Year. The ball dropped on the screen, confetti, cheers, couples kissing, but in the cabin, dead silence. Emily whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded, but my throat was dry. I paused the video. I rewound it to 11:59 and I played it again. It was the normal crowd and no extra voices. I closed the laptop and my heart was pounding. We sat there in the glow of the stove, listening to the wind rattle the windows and the snow tap the roof. I got up and checked the front door. The deadbolt was locked and the chain was on the door. The back door was the same. The windows were all latched from the inside. I even went outside with a flashlight, my boots crunching in the fresh powder underneath. But there were no tracks other than the ones that I was making. There was nothing. We didn't sleep much that night. We kept the stove roaring and the lights on low. Every creak of the cabin made us jump. When we finally got service the next afternoon on the drive out, I played the same file on my phone in the car. And it was perfectly normal. Just the usual massive crowd. Those 3 voices only showed up that one time, in that one place, in that one exact moment. Like they'd been waiting all year for someone to start the countdown so they could finish it with us. So this took place in New York. It was New Year's Eve, going from 2024 into 2025. I was alone in my 14th floor apartment. All of my friends had plans, but I didn't feel like forcing it. I ordered Thai, cracked a beer, and put the live stream on mute. I was planning on watching the ball drop, but heading to bed fairly early after that. The building was quiet that night. Most people were out partying or at rooftop events. My hallway had been empty for hours. At 11:59, I found myself standing at the window, watching the glittering city lights and the snow flurries dancing in the wind. My phone was on vibrate and sat over on the kitchen counter. The countdown had started on the TV, and I counted along silently. The ball comes down and finally drops, and the crowd is in a frenzy. The fireworks start booming outside over the river. I raise my beer to my empty apartment. Happy New Year. Immediately, my phone buzzes, like exactly 1 second after midnight. It was a text from an unknown number. No name, no area code, just blank. It read, "Happy New Year. You're the only one still awake on your floor." I stared at the screen until it timed out. The hallway outside my door is carpeted and pretty much soundproof, so I hadn't heard a single footstep all evening. I walked to the peephole. I saw nothing but an empty hallway, and the lights dimmed for the night. There was another buzz at 12:02. It was the same unknown sender. "Your light is still on. Everyone else went dark by 11:30. I just wanted to be the first to say Happy New Year." My living room light was the only one on, and it must have been bleeding under my door. It must have been the only glow in the whole corridor. But even then, how would this person know my number? Is somebody I know messing with me? I didn't reply. I turned off every light and sat in the dark with my phone. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure someone, even if they were outside, could hear it. At 12:05, there was nothing. Then came 12:10. Still nothing. I called building security from the dark living room. I told them someone was texting me from inside maybe. They checked the cameras. The hallway has been empty since 11:50. There were no deliveries, no visitors, not a single person in the stairwells. The number wouldn't accept calls and went straight to not in service. I barely slept that night. I kept the TV on low and the blinds closed. I put my phone on airplane mode. When morning came, I checked, but there was nothing else. No texts, no knocks, no more random numbers. But I still moved out in February when my lease allowed an early termination, because whoever it was knew exactly where my neighbors turned their lights off, and they knew when I was alone. And they waited until the very first second of the new year to make sure that I knew that they were watching. This happened back on New Year's Eve, 2021. Me and 4 of my buddies, guys I've known since high school, decided to skip the bars and do something stupid. We thought it would be a good idea to drive out to this old abandoned quarry outside of Reno, where we used to party as kids and set off fireworks. It was the perfect spot. It had a high ledge, a huge open pit, and a clear view of the city lights twinkling in the valley below. There were no nearby houses and no patrolling cops. We had pooled our cash together for the good stuff: mortars, cakes, and the big aerial shells that you're definitely not supposed to have. We got there around 11. We parked the trucks in a half circle, and we set everything up on the rocky edge. After a few beers, midnight finally hit, and we lit the first fuse. Sizzle, whoosh, boom. Gold-colored burst high above us, lighting up the whole quarry like daylight for a second. It was beautiful. Then the second shell, red and green peonies. The third, crackling willows. On the fourth one, the flash caught the far wall of the pit, and for that half-frozen second, we all saw them. 6 figures, standing perfectly still on the opposite rim, maybe 100 yards away. They were all wearing dark coats and oversized hoods. We couldn't see their faces, and they weren't moving. They were just watching. We all kind of laughed nervously. There really isn't any access to that side of the quarry, not without parking where we were and then hiking about a half hour through some pretty rough terrain. James, the youngest of us, said, "Cool, other pyros. Maybe we'll get a free show." Then the 5th shell. The same flash, still 6 figures. They were in the same exact position, like they hadn't even blinked. Whoosh, boom. Whoosh, boom. Every burst lit them up again, and every time they were there. They didn't have their phones out recording us, they weren't waving, and they weren't lighting their own fireworks. They were just standing there. By the 10th shell, the vibe had shifted. The explosions felt too loud. The silence between us and them was too heavy. My friend Bill muttered, "Why aren't they doing anything?" We lit the finale cake anyway. 20 shots in a row. It was massive, The light show was insane, but every burst gave us a glimpse of the same thing. 6 silhouettes, arms at their sides, staring directly at us. Not even once did they look up at the fireworks. When it ended and the smoke finally drifted away, we packed up fast. No one said it out loud, but we were as scared as we'd ever been. As we loaded the trucks, I shone my flashlight across the pit one last time. But now there was only 5 figures, still staring at us, but one was gone. James noticed this as well and announced it to the rest of the group. On the drive back, nobody said a word, but I swear that as we drove down the road that night, I saw a single flash in the rearview mirror, like someone had lit a sparkler, alone in the dark, right where we had been parked. A few days later, we went up there to clean up our trash. The ledge was empty, no other tire tracks anywhere, no footprints leading to or from the far side. Just smooth, wind-blown gravel.